Welcome to my third and final video in this liquidity providing series. If you guys will remember, the first video I reference is the video that is pinned in the Titans of LP Telegram channel. If you have not seen that, go check it out, where we go over what liquidity providing is, the basic mechanics of liquidity providing, comparing it to the stock market and market makers. And then we go into a couple of technical indicators, Bollinger Bands and RSI. Second video, we talked about putting a position on in Uniswap V3, showed you the ins and outs, how to use the sliders, talked a little bit about the ratios, the min max price, as well as went into a little bit of single-sided liquidity providing. So in this video, we're going to explore a couple more, I would say, advanced tactics when it comes to LPing, as well as dig into common scenarios that you will inevitably be faced with and how to counter slash manage your position like a pro. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So I call this the LP ladder strategy. For those of you that have been in the TitanX ecosystem, you guys are always hearing the term ladder. So I just figured, okay, I'm just going to piggyback off that term and use it for this, but it makes sense. And bear with me here. It'll all make sense in the end. So this strategy I kind of came up with on my own. I don't want to claim that I invented this because nothing I'm telling you guys is novel. However, I have seen at least 20 different LPing videos on YouTube, all from guys with like 20, 30,000 views type of content, and none of them were talking about this. So what is the ladder strategy? Great question. Grab a seat, grab a drink of your favorite beverage, and let's have some fun. So, again, the ladder strategy is something that I came up with to help me from myself. Let me explain. When I go to set up an LP, I always start with a decently wide range. In the second video, I was explaining how I like to do 30% spreads, min and max. So what happens if for some reason TitanX goes on a little bit of a heater and it goes outside my range to the upside? Well, this is where Bollinger Bands and RSI come back in. Okay. So here's our Bollinger Bands. Here's our RSI. Remember, high RSI is overbought, low RSI is oversold. The same thing can be said with Bollinger Bands. Overbought, oversold, right? Like, how hot are the buyers? How hot are the sellers? Okay. So the first thing I want to see is what my indicators are trying to tell me. If TitanX goes outside my LP to the upside, I'm looking to see the current candlestick at or near the top band, as well as RSI showing a reading of at least 70. Let me go ahead and make a couple lines here. I'll make a fake little liquidity position range to kind of illustrate my point and bring it home. So let's say I don't want you to focus too heavily on the let's just call it this. Okay. Let's say I want my range here and I want my range right here. Okay. Don't worry too much about the candlesticks right now, but just know that these two blue lines, that's my quote unquote range, right? Okay. So what happens in this theoretical scenario if TitanX trades outside of this range? Okay. What I like to do, I call it the 24-hour rule. Some other liquidity providers also call it the 24-hour rule. It's kind of a common theme here. But for 24 hours, you do nothing, especially if Bollinger Bands, if it's high on the Bollinger Band and high on RSI. Like this candlestick right here. This is a perfect example. If this was my liquidity position, right? This is my range, and I get this candlestick, it goes outside my range, right? Notice how it wicked up but came back down back into the range. Well, if I would have nuked this position and set it like up here and up here, trying to chase this candlestick, I'd be wrecked because this is coming back down, right? So again, 24-hour rule, just do nothing, okay? It's not going anywhere, guys. You don't have to rush this. So for 24 hours, I do nothing. I see what happens. Boom. It came back in well within my range. Look at this guy. Now this is a daily chart. So this would be That first day went outside my range for a few hours and it closed inside my range. And then here it opened in my range and then closed lower, but still in my range, still making fees. Okay. But what happens if like you start seeing this kind of stuff? It starts trading outside the range, you know, blah blah blah. You can extend the 24-hour rule. There's no science, but at least wait 24 hours before you do anything significant. Um, and I'll get into that, but you never want to just nuke your core liquidity position. And I'm gonna get into what I mean by core. But just know that if it goes outside, you give it 24 hours, a lot of times it comes right back in. Okay. Unless it goes on like a superheater, but we'll get into what to do there as well. So we do nothing. 24 hours, got it. So you will see this scenario. I do want to make it a point. You will see this scenario happen, especially in a bull run when the prices are super volatile. This is going to happen a bunch. And you might see it again you might see it happen a few times in 1 week where it just goes outside your range, comes back in, outside, comes back in. It's like testing. Um, it's testing resistance, right? So in the next scenario, that was scenario one. Goes outside your range briefly, just do nothing. The next scenario, what would I do if, say, TitanX blows through my range to the upside or downside? Now, we're going to focus mostly on upside here because I don't want you guys who have never done LP before to chase a downward trend. Just don't provide LP if we're in a downtrend. Okay. Luckily for you, now's the perfect time to start because we have been in an uptrend since day 280. So you don't really have to worry too much about like it going down and never coming back up like it did the past 9 months. But for purposes of this exercise, we're just going to focus on the upside. Okay. Plus, I'm a positive guy. I like to think in upside. Right. So again, what do you do if it like just blows through your range? And I mean, really goes outside. First thing I'm going to do, I'm still going to follow my 24-hour rule. However, a lot of times, if the price just blows up like that, we could be in price discovery trying to find a new local top. And a lot of times in this scenario, price does not revert back down to the mean on the Bollinger Bands. So it'll shoot way outside the range. Like it come way up here and it doesn't fall back to the mean. All right. Don't worry. This is where we're going to employ my ladder strategy. So when this happens, and I've waited 24 hours to no avail, what I will do is I will set up another position in addition to my last one. Okay. Let me reiterate I do not nuke my core position, I just create another position. What I'll do, and a good rule of thumb that I always follow, this is just me, this is kind of how I play the game, is my core position is always going to be my largest liquidity position. And by largest, I mean largest in money as well as, so I'll fund it. It'll have the most funds in it. So in this example, if I have $10,000 that I'm LPing with, I will keep this core position like around 10,000. If it's 10,000 bucks, I'll take 2,000 out and set up a new one. Okay. And what I like to do is, if this is 30% this way, 30% min, 30% max. Okay. What I will do is I will just set up a new position. But instead of 30-30, what I will do is 15-15 from this line. So I'll go 15% this way, and then I'll go 15% this way. Okay. Now I'm going to change the color here so it doesn't get confusing because this is an absolute atrocity to look at as it is. Let's go green. And let's change this one to green. Help you out there. Boom. Okay. So now you can see I have, you know what? I'm also going to turn Bollinger Bands off because this is really starting to hurt my eyes. Okay. That's a lot easier to look at. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and do something like this. Okay. So now I have this position as my core. And then I have this second position as This is part of my ladder. All right. Couple things that are going to happen here. And I've seen every single one of these scenarios happen. First scenario is you're going to trade in a new range. You're going to trade between this top band for my core and this top band for the second position, my secondary position. Okay. It'll trade in here, in here. Boom. It'll fall back down into my core. Boom. It goes back up. I'm trading in here. Boom. It falls down into my core. Boom. It falls back up. So from here, really from like, you know, this candlestick to this candlestick, I'm trading in two different LPs. Now, here's the beauty of this ladder strategy, which is why I don't like nuking my core. If you look at this space between this blue line and this green line, every time TitanX trades in here, I would be double dipping. I'm getting money from this secondary LP. I'm getting money from the primary LP. You feel me now? So that's why I don't like nuking this. You just set up a new one. Okay. And as the price goes higher, if it blasts through this new one, you create another one. You just keep laddering up. Now, if I'm in a position like this and I see that the price is way higher than my core, then and only then will I go ahead and nuke my core position. Okay? Here's where the genius really comes in. All I do is set up a new core position a little bit higher. So I'll set up a position right here. Don't look it up here. Don't look it up here. I want you guys focused like right around this area. What I'll do is I'll set up a line here and I'll set up a line here. That's my new core. Okay. So now what I've done is I went from being on the offensive to now I'm being defensive. And let me go ahead and explain why I'm now defensive. As you can see, before, as we were going up, I had more upside protection. Okay. Because my secondary was higher than my core. Well, now my core, as you can see, is higher than my secondary. So I've now created more of a defensive position. What do I mean by that? Well, if this thing's going on a heater, the chances are pretty good that at some point it's going to dip 25, 35%, okay, in USD terms, which, you know, who knows what that's going to mean in the ETH TitanX ratio, right? So now I'm defensive, okay? Now, and again, I'm over here. If this does dip, I have price protection from here all the way down to here. And that's a lot of price protection. So if it nukes, you know, if the price nukes, you know, a good amount, let's pretend like this is the last candle. So let's go ahead. Oops. Get rid of that. Sorry about that. What we're going to do, let's move this over because I already know you guys are looking at these candles like, what do you mean, man? That one's higher. Just look like right here. Pretend like this is the new one. All right. I basically have protection price wise from a price standpoint from like here to here. That's a 48% in USD price differential. So as far as the ratio of TitanX to ETH goes, it's a decent amount. Okay. I don't know exactly what that ratio would be because, you know, Ethereum price could be doing something different, right? But let's just say I have a lot of protection to the downside. So what you never want to do is you never want to bring your secondary up higher with your core. You want to raise one LP at a time, if that makes sense. I hope I didn't lose any of you guys by that. But again, um, the main thing to think about is you don't want to necessarily chase price up with all of your positions. Do it one at a time, one at a time, one at a time, and never change your core. You never want to move your core until you have seen an established range. What do I mean by established? You see this right here, this action right here, that sideways action. That's when you would want to establish a core. Okay. This sideways action right here, man, if you had something going from like for this sideways action, you'd be killing it. All right. This is where you want to set your core on these sideways action movements. You never want to set your core when it's doing something like this. Okay. You want to do it like here in this area because you can make a move. If it goes higher, boom, you're hitting a secondary. If it goes lower, boom, you can hit a secondary. Okay. I really, really, really want to reiterate where people get wrecked. Okay. Where newbies get wrecked is what they will do is they don't do a ladder of any kind. And it's okay. You don't have to do a ladder. This is just one of my strategies that I do, especially on this exotic type of pair like TitanX and Ethereum, right? TitanX is pretty exotic, lower liquidity compared to like the majors, and the volume is pretty high. So when you're doing an LP on a pair like that, you just have to think a little bit about some kind of defense. What a lot of people will do is they'll set their range right here. It moves out of their range. They immediately nuke this. Okay. They'll immediately nuke this and they'll do something like this. They'll set a new range up here and here. Okay. Now, we don't have Bollinger Bands on, but we can see RSI. Look at this. RSI is hot right here. This is hot. This is hot. Look what happens every time RSI gets hot, guys. Okay. Okay. It's getting hot. So, why would you set your core position here knowing full damn well that there is a chance? Okay. Not saying it always happens, but there's a chance that this could fall down to here. Okay. It could hit this level. It could hit this level. It could come back down here. It could come back down here. It could come back down here. Okay. There's many places where this can retrace to. Eventually, buyers will be exhausted. Okay. You don't want to be in a position where you're nuking this range constantly. It's a lot easier to have one big fat core range and then work in littler amounts, smaller amounts, tighter ranges around that. Okay. Don't chase this. Do not chase, especially if it's going up. Wait for confirmation. Always wait for confirmation. That's probably the biggest piece of advice that I would give to any new person is never just degen into an LP position. Look at RSI. You want RSI kind of in the middle. You want Bollinger Bands. Let me go ahead and chuck Bollinger Bands back on. Okay. You want Bollinger Bands. You want it to be around here when you set up a position or here or here. You don't want to start a position at the top. It's like buying the top. It's exactly the same thing. You're literally buying the top because if you only have Ethereum and you need to have TitanX to do this LP, you're forced to buy some TitanX at the top. You don't want to do that. You want to wait for a retracement of some kind. It doesn't have to be exactly at the median. You know, there might be a week where it doesn't come anywhere near the median. You're going to be like, oh man, I missed out on all these fees. Trust me, you didn't. I have been wrecked so many times trying to FOMO into an LP position here. This is why I'm making these videos for you guys so you guys don't have to make the same mistakes I did. Okay. So that's really it in a nutshell. I know there was a lot to unpack in this little video. Feel free to use this as a guide. Follow along in real time. It'll make sense. The cool thing about this strategy is it gets you thinking a lot. You'll constantly find yourself on Dexstream or game planning your next position. Trust me, it gets addicting. If you have any questions about the ladder strategy or LPing in general, feel free to hit me up in the Titans of LP Telegram. I can't wait until you guys start your first position because it's always fascinating to hear people talk about how fun and easy it really is. Not to mention when the bull gets cranking, we for sure will be sharing our successes. In the Titans of LP Telegram group, we always talk about, okay, what position you guys thinking about? What are we doing here? What are we doing there? It's like a big brainstorming session. We have over 100 people in that group now. Okay. Some of us are a little bit more active than others, and that's okay. You can come in, and if you don't want to say anything, come into the group and just chill out and just watch and read and learn. And that's totally fine. Also, I will plug, even though it's free, I will plug my services. If for whatever reason, after watching these videos, you're still stuck, you're still stumped, or you have other questions, comments, or concerns, hit me up again in DMs and Telegram. Best way to get a hold of me. Um, and let me know. I will go ahead and do a 30 to 40-minute Zoom video with you one on one for free, no cost. The only thing it's going to cost you is your time. And if you're willing to give up a little bit of your time to learn, I'm willing to give up a little bit of my time to teach. So feel free to use that. A lot of people on YouTube, a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of these, you know, there's a lot of people out there that aren't willing to share this and kind of information and coach you for free. And that's fine. They can get paid for what they think that their time is worth. Money is not an issue for me. Um, my time isn't an issue for me. I have a lot of it. So I would like to at least help someone learn how to do something the right way, the proper way. Single side liquidity, you need help with that, you ask. If you need help putting on a position and you want me to help you in real time, you can share your screen and I can walk you through it. It's very, very simple, guys. Not a problem. Please feel free to reach out. But that's really my soapbox speech in a nutshell. Again, Johnny Papa Vegas, this has been an absolute pleasure. And I'll get some more content out to you guys real soon because I have a few ideas up my sleeve. You guys be good or be good at it. Okay. And I'll see you in the Telegram.